Hi, my name is Wes O'Donnell. I'm a writer for InMilitary.com and American Military University. And as part of my job, I often pore through historic documents trying to gain insights into the minds of these key historic individuals who have really shaped our modern landscape. And as we approach the 75th anniversary of D-Day, I think it's hugely important to take a look and examine Eisenhower's "in case of failure" memo. Now, this is a memo that would have been published if our troops would have failed to land at Normandy, would have failed to gain a satisfactory foothold. And the note never got published. The note never turned into a speech that Eisenhower had to give. But if you read the letter very carefully, you see some very interesting things come up. You see here where he says the troops have failed to gain a satisfactory foothold at Cherbourg, and the troops have been withdrawn. And then there's a line through it, and he crosses that line out, and he puts, "and I have withdrawn the troops." And I think that's an insight into where Eisenhower's mind was at the time. I think what Eisenhower wanted to do was make sure that the blame rested squarely on his shoulders if the invasion at Normandy would have failed. So why did Eisenhower put the blame completely on himself? I think part of it has to do with the fact that Eisenhower was raised in the late 1800s, early 1900s, coming of age in the Midwest, United States. And there's a certain level of nobility and values in the Midwest. But I think it's more than that. If the invasion at Normandy 75 years ago would have failed, there was going to have to be another invasion. And that invasion was going to be an extremely hard sell to the American people. Because somebody was going to have to go back and say, we're going to have to do this all over again. Yes, the first one failed. And by Eisenhower taking the blame and saying, I have withdrawn the troops, I have failed to make this landing at Normandy, what he's done is he's allowed the person that replaces him to be able to go to the American public and say, the first invasion failed not because it's an impossible task, but the first invasion failed because Eisenhower made mistakes. And I think throwing himself under the bus in this letter, if you will, really shows his devotion to the United States of America and the greater good and the country as a whole. Fortunately, that memo, the "in case of failure" memo, never got published. It never needed to. The invasion was a success, as we all know, and it went something like this.
Soldiers, sailors, and airmen of the Allied Expeditionary Force, you are about to embark upon the great crusade toward which we have striven these many months. The eyes of the world are upon you. The hopes and prayers of liberty-loving people everywhere march with you. In company with our brave allies and brothers in arms on other fronts, you will bring about the destruction of the German war machine, the elimination of Nazi tyranny over the oppressed peoples of Europe, and security for ourselves in a free world. Your task will not be an easy one. Your enemy is well-trained, well-equipped, and battle-hardened. He will fight savagely. But this is the year 1944. Much has happened since the Nazi triumphs of 1940-41. The United Nations have inflicted upon the Germans great defeats in open battle, man to man. Our air offensive has seriously reduced their strength in the air and their capacity to wage war on the ground. Our home fronts have given us an overwhelming superiority in weapons and munitions of war, and placed at our disposal great reserves of trained fighting men. The tide has turned. The free men of the world are marching together to victory. I have full confidence in your courage, devotion to duty, and skill in battle. We will accept nothing less than full victory. Good luck, and let us all beseech the blessing of Almighty God upon this great and noble undertaking.